Hey, in today's video we're going to take a look at the Yamaha FB-01 from 1986 and the Roland MT-32 from 1987. And both these modules came at a time where the amateur musician with not so much money in his pocket really wanted a multi-timbral sound module to work with his sequencer and maybe out on a gig. And both of these modules are sought after today for different reasons, which we will also take a look at. So let's go. This is the only music tech magazine in Norway at the time, freely translated, called How to Do Music. And in the issue March 88, we see that they have a review of the Roland MT-32. And to really appreciate the MT-32, you have to realize that the exact moment when Roland released the D50 in 1987, the Yamaha DX line were completely left dead in the water. Nobody wanted that. Everyone wanted the D50 sound with PCM attack samples, followed by a virtual analog sound. This was totally new and spectacular at the time. Problem was that the D50 cost a lot, the D550 cost a lot, and they weren't multi-timbral either. So when Roland released the MT-32 shortly after the D50, the amateur musician wanting to do some songwriting sessions with a sequencer, he really jumped at the possibility of getting two D550s, a DAP3 and a drum sampler in a box, because Rumours had it, you could get all that in the MT-32 for about $700. Which was of course not true at all. The maximum polyphony of the MT-32 is 32 voices if each voice is made up of only one partial. This was a new thing Roland had devised, that a voice could consist of up to 4 partials. Dynamic allocation, you didn't have to keep track of this at all yourself. The original MT-32 design was made for a few years actually, and this model here was made in February 1992. And the headphone out socket tells us this is a revision 2 of the MT-32. The FB-01, on the other hand, well, that came out a year before the MT-32 in 1986, and it was a 4-operator FM synth from Yamaha. And in terms of shape and size, they went for a desktop unit, not a full 19-inch rack unit, and it had a red LED display. And the real kicker was that it used something called MIDI mode number 4 mono, which meant that it was multi-timbral. You could assign each of its 8 voices to 8 different MIDI channels. It was also flexible enough to allow you to do 4x4 dual mode or 4x4 split mode, so you could get some new timbres out of the FB-01 that you hadn't heard before. And the price, around $300, were considered quite cheap actually for what you got. From the modules themselves, neither the MT-32 nor the FB-01 makes it possible to edit sounds directly on the module. You'd need a MIDI editor program software for a computer to do that. But the FB-01 has a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can do on the module itself than the MT-32, where you basically can't change anything except the volume of the different parts, the voices. And so in 1986, you'd probably go for the Yamaha FB-01 if you had a MIDI sequencer and wanted to make some music at home using that MIDI sequencer and maybe a Porta Studio. However, when the MT-32 came out in 1987, you'd probably want that, even if it meant you had to pay twice the amount that the FB-01 cost. But if you couldn't make up your mind, you'd probably go to a music store and start playing on both modules to find out which one you like the best, and that could look something like this. this is where the story might have ended. But something happened then the MT-32 did not intend. It abandoned Roland, and it was picked up by the computer music industry and soon became the de facto standard for home computer games. The gaming industry really took to it, and soon companies like LucasArts and Sierra Online had a stack of composers making music for the games on the MT-32. And with its huge success came new Roland boxes like the CM32L, the CM32P, the CM64, and lots of other white desktop modules. And with the rise of the general MIDI standard, soon also came the Roland Sound Canvas modules, which is another story in itself. That's right, both units, both modules have become cult classics in their own right. Now that the decades has passed, nothing has really changed. The MT-32 is still the module to have if you want to set up a PC computer game, computer music platform. It sounds glorious, it takes us right back to Monkey Island. While the FB-01 is sought after by the electronic musician going for a more maybe dark, gritty, industrial FM type sound, or just as a expander for your other FM modules or DX modules or synthesizers, whatever. So I like them both just for these reasons. As always, I'm Espen Kraft and I am the 80s. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Cheers!